Are you starting with us Psachim? Every day. The shir, not 8 minutes. Every day. Good Voch, Rabbi Sai. Come here a second. Oy vey. Come here. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Yeshua Aaron Price's son. He just brought me a balloon. It's not my birthday. It's my English birthday. Don't worry about it. The Oilam came. They thought they surprised me. They surprised me on the wrong day. They're going to have to do it over again. I don't celebrate English. You got to do it twice. Shkoyach, thanks. Oh, you want to tell them? Good morning, Rabbi Isa? Yeah? Hold on. He wants to say... Good morning, Rabbi. Good morning, Rabbi Isa. Gewaldig. Okay. Go to your daddy. How's everybody doing? Real quickly, Lili Nishmas Imi Mirasi Rusbas Mordechai. Today's shir is being sponsored in honor of Shia Greenfield. I'm going to call them the Parnas HaChodesh. $1,800, Parnas HaChodesh. In honor of Yossi Klein from Superior Plumbing, Muncie. And today's shir is being sponsored by Meir Planka. Refuah Shlema for Avram Eliyahu Ben Chaya. He should have clear 20/20 vision. Amen. Quick email here from David Brandes from South Bend. Good morning, Rebellion MDY crew. I shared the flyer Yeshua posted on the WhatsApp group with my family. Right away, I started getting responses. Apparently, he sold my brother-in-law, Shmaya Shoshani, his house on Chase down the block, and he remembers you from when you ran it. I have no idea what that is, sorry. He didn't know you were giving shir, but needless to say, he signed up and downloaded the app. He's going to start Emir Hashem Psachim. All right, my nephew, Yishkoyach, my nephew then texted to tell me that apparently your son is joining Yeshiva. He's also telling shout out to Yehuda Castel, DJ, Huda Chris. Looking forward to starting the next Masechta with you in the whole shir, David Brown. So anyways, that's an email of telling us that he got other people to join. This is from John Bernholtz. Hi, my name is Jonathan Bernholtz. I'm already with you guys from Masechta Shabbos, and I love it. I'm from London, originally from Vienna. I usually watch on the app and YouTube. I got my father-in-law hooked to the shir. He also watches on the app and YouTube every day. Just want to let you know, they got a new guy listening every morning. I got him hooked. Since Rosh Hashanah, from London, every morning, 5:15. His name is Eli Posen, brother-in-law. Just want you to know. Could you give him a shout-out? Do I have to do it again? Eli Posen, Shalom Aleichem, welcome. We're going to finish us together. He deserves it. Thank you. Keep up the good work. Shkoyach, Jonathan, thanks for getting people to join the shir. It'll be a schus for you, a schus for me, a schus for the whole MDY crew, a schus for the whole chevra. Rabbi Sai, this is unbelievable. We can see the end here. Daf Kuf Gimel Amud Beis by the Mishnah. Koyen Shalaka Be'etzboi. You have Nebuch, a very unfortunate situation where a kohen got a boo-boo on his finger. These are amazing pictures from Yoni. I'm mamish going to miss it. I didn't realize how spoiled we are. I called up Yoni. His wife said she'll think about it. They gave me reshus to use all their pictures. I called up Art Scroll and all the... I got reshus. I called up this other guy from Masechtas Psachim on Mishnais. He gave me the big no. I was wondering how come people are just so nice. They just give me reshus. So I don't know what we're going to do for Psachim. But meanwhile, I'm going to enjoy every one of these pictures. You may put on, in those days, instead of a band-aid, they had a gemi. Gemi is something that has healing powers. Healing powers. So even though it's a healer, and on Shabbos it's a big no-no, can't heal on Shabbos, shchika samamonim. Nevertheless, because you're in the Beis HaMikdash, and it's not nice when blood is dripping all over the place, that's not how you perform the avodah, so we allow you to be koirech gemi. Avalei b'Medina, can't do that anywhere else besides the Beis HaMikdash. Im lahoitzi dam. If you're wrapping around your finger like in this picture, beautiful, the blood is just dripping. You want to give it a good kvetch, a good squeeze so blood could come out. That's chayvel. Chayvel is asur in Shabbos. Kam v'kan asur. Even the Beis HaMikdash, it is asur. Omar Rav Yehuda b'Reder Rav Chia. We have to remember this name. Rav Yehuda, the son of Rabbi Chia, says, Lo yishanu elo gemi. This halacha that we just learned is halacha with a piece of reed. You're allowed to put it on your finger. It's okay to put a little band-aid, it's a reed. Aval tziltzul katan have yitur b'gadim. If I take a little decorative belt and I put it around my finger, I'm adding begadim. So, here's a picture of the begadim. This is the Kohen Gadol with the Shmona begadim. Here's the Kohen Hedyot with 4 begadim. Here's the avnate, the red avnate. We're going to talk about it. If I put something on my finger, now all of a sudden I have 5. If I have 5, my avoid is pasul. If I'm a Kohen Hedyot and I wear the begadim of the Kohen Gadol, pasul. If I'm a Kohen Gadol and wear less begadim, pasul. It has to be exact. You have no right to add a beautiful decorative belt. By you adding a decorative belt, it's a problem. Azoi Zokr B'chiyah. Where is he adding this beged? He's adding it to his finger. Now, a finger is not a place where you wear a beged. There's no glove. Nevertheless, Rabbi Yehuda Bereder Rabbi Chia says, this is problematic. Well, I'm going to see this is machlokes. Rabbi Yochanan jumps in right away and he says, not true. I disagree. That's if instead of wearing this beautiful, or the avnate, let's say, I take your tzultzul and I put it on, okay. Instead of wearing the white, I wear my nice Armani jacket, whatever it is. That's a yitur begadim. Ela avol shaloi b'mokim begadim loy have a yitur begadim. Putting a nice decorative band-aid is not yitur begadim. As the Gemara of a tepik lei mishum chatzitzo. But what about when the Kohen performs the avodah? It says v'lokach b'yadai, he has to take whatever it is with his hand. He has to lift up the carbon. He has to do the whatever it is, and all of a sudden there's a band-aid. A band-aid is a chatzitza. He's not touching whatever he has to be touching. Says the Gemara, bismail. Now the halach is, as Rashi points out right away, if you do the avodah, let's say kabbalas hadam, you have to grab the blood out of the carbon's neck. You grab it with your left hand, pasul. So it's not a big deal to put a band-aid on the left hand. If he's a righty, especially. So he puts the band. We're talking about on the left hand. Inami bimin, or he puts the little band-aid over here on top. Makam avodah is the palm of his hand. He's grabbing things like this. To put it on top of his finger is not a big deal. The Rava, and this would be an argument on Rava according to this lashon. We're going to see there's a little bit slightly of a different lashon in Rabbi Yochanan. This Rabbi Yochanan says that b'makayim beged, wherever the clothing of the kohen is, that's where you're over on yitur begadim. But if it's not a makayim beged, like the fingers, you put any kind of decorative, whatever it is, then it's okay. What does Rava say? Rava argues. If you were to have a single thread that's not part of the garment, and it's right underneath what the kohen wears, right over here, anywhere, that's a chatzitza between the kohen's body and the beged. So even nima achas, one here. Shaloi b'makim begadim. But if it's not in an area that a kohen typically wears a beged, let's say, I don't know, over here, on his forehead. If he's not a kohen gadol, it sits. On his nose. He puts something on his nose. Shalosh al shalosh chaytzitzos. 3 by 3 fingers is chatzitza. Pachis mishalosh al shalosh einon chaytzitzos. Let me ask you a question. What is it a chatzitza from? I put something, a 3 by 3 on my nose. What's the chatzitza? What's supposed to be there that this is a problem? I'm chaytzis between what and what? The answer is it's not a chatzitza. It's a play on words. I'm convinced that the Gemara does this just to weed out all the riffraff, the guys that are not interested. Since we spoke about chatzitzas, the Gemara is throwing in a word called chatzitza. What the Gemara really means, says Rashi, is yitur begadim. This is a new piece of cloth. 3 by 3 it's not a chatzitza. I don't have to have anything on my nose. I can put whatever I want on my nose. I'm not wearing another beged. It's not a chatzitza between my beged and my guf. So what the Gemara means is yitur begadim. By me putting a 3x3, I'm adding clothing. Where? On my nose. But if my nose is not a makom that I wear a beged, Torah doesn't tell me to wear a beged. Says Rava, it doesn't matter. You have no right adding begadim. You also wear 4, and right now you have a nose covering number 5, and that's also, says Rava. He argues on Rabbi Yochanan. Says the Gemara, the Rabbi Yochanan vade pligo. That's obvious. Rabbi Yochanan said that on not a makom beged, where the kohen typically doesn't wear, like let's say on his hands, on his feet, on his nose, you cannot add begadim. In other words, if you do add beged, you're not over anything. There's no yitur begadim. There's no isser. And Rava just said there is an isser. If it's large enough, 3x3, which consists usually throughout Shas, the size of a piece of cloth, 3x3 fingers, so it's a beged. Now, Ad Rav Yehuda Bereder Rav Chia, minei the pliga. Who's Rabbi Yehuda Bereder Rav Chia? As we start out the sugya, that is the shita that says you cannot put a tziltzul katan, a decorative band, a decorative belt, a small little belt around the boo-boo. That you can't do. Says the Gemara, well, the decorative band is not 3x3 fingers. Rava says it has to be 3x3 fingers in order to be over. The son of Reb Chia doesn't say that. He says tzitzul katan. Maybe it's 1 finger. I don't know. It's nice. It's beautiful. It's decorative. It's colorful. But it doesn't have to be 3 fingers. So is there machlokes or not? Says the Gemara, perhaps there's no machlokes. Maybe they agree with each other. Shani tzitzul katan the chashiv. What's so 3x3 is a shear of chashivos. This is what poor people don't throw out. They don't toss away. Chashiv. You know what? If it's a beautiful decorative, somebody worked really hard on putting it together. What is it called again? You know, whatever. Then that's also chashuv. It's beautiful. That's chaytzitz. That not chaytzitz. That's a yitur begadim. That's a yitur begadim. Says the Gemara, lishnach, slightly different. Omer Rav Yehuda Bereder Reb Chia lo shanu elo gemi. So the son of Reb Chia, Rav Yehuda, the son of Reb Chia, says, what the Mishnah allows us is a kohen to put on a gemi, a reed, a simple piece of grass. It has some therapeutic properties in there, but it's ugly. It's just a piece of reed. Avol tziltzul katan chaytzitz. But a nice belt is a chatzitza. Now, if you pay attention, the Gemara over there said in the beginning, "Avol tziltzul katan have a yitur begadim." A small belt is considered extra beged, and now the Gemara is saying, "Avol tziltzul katan chaytzitz." But guess what? We just established that the word chatzitza doesn't mean chatzitza. It's just to get us to think a little bit. And chaytzitz means yitur begadim. Okay, so therefore there's zero difference so far between what we just read before. A small belt is a chatzitza, meaning it consists, we consider it an extra beged. The Torah says, you kohen headed, you wear 4, you just wore a 5th beged. No. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, here's a little bit of a difference. Big difference. Lo yamu chatzitza. Now, just to mess with us a little bit, now the word chatzitza means chatzitza. Okay. Because listen, if you're wearing a beged, now the word chatzitza does apply. The Torah says you should wear this tunic, whatever it is, some sort of beged, and guess what? You have a bunch of threads from a different, you forgot to take it off your body, it makes a chatzitza between your body and the beged. So that word chatzitza fits in as the typical chatzitza in Shas. And now we go to Daf Kuf Daled Amud Aleph. Shalosh al shalosh chaytzitzos, pachos mishalosh and chaytzitzos. Says Rabbi Yochanan. What does he say? He says chatzitza is pachos mishalosh shalosh in the makom of the beged. If The Torah doesn't say to wear a beged on your hand and on your feet and on your nose. So it depends. If I put a nice piece of fabric there, a chashav piece, that's a chatzitza. No, who says that? Now Rabbi Yochanan is saying exactly what Rava said in the name of Rav Chisda. They're identical. Before they argued, now they're identical. According to this lashon, they're identical. Says the Gemara, sorry. V'hainu de Rav Amar Rav Chisda. Okay, so they're saying the same exact thing. In other words, Rabbi Yochanan now in this lashon admits that there's a concept called yitur b'gadim, even when the Torah says, don't wear something on your nose, don't wear something on your hand, but if you decide to wear a glove, if a kohen comes to the Beis Hamikdash Shalom Aleichem, it's cold, and he wears a glove, according to both Rabbi Yochanan and Rava, he's over, all his avodah is worthless, garbage, because he has to wear 4, not 5. Perhaps they do argue on the son of Reb Chia who says, forget about 3 by 3, even a tziltzil kata and even a small belt is a chatzitza. No argument, like we said before, shani tziltzil kata and the chashiv. They would agree that if it's a beautiful decorative beged that has the same halacha as a 3 by 3, that creates a yitur begadim. Ask the Gemara. However, Ula Rabbi Yochanan, who is talking directly to this, which we just said was Rava, this little chiddush of tziltzil katan maybe. But Rabbi Yochanan, if you recall, all the way in the beginning of the Gemara, let's just go back for a second, where it says Gemara, right after the Mishnah. This heter of a kohen putting on a band-aid is when it's made out of reed. But if it's a beautiful belt, he cannot do so because he's adding a beged. Rabbi Yochanan Omar. Who is Rabbi Yochanan talking to? To Rabbi Yehuda Bereder Rav Chia. So if Rabbi Yehuda was talking directly to Rabbi Yehuda Rav Chia, you can't say he doesn't argue on him. He specifically argues on him. So ask the Gemara if he argues on him. And he says that a small belt is no good. So why doesn't he just say halacha about the small belt? Says the Gemara, Milsa agavuchik the gemi masi. He wanted to tell us another chiddush. He wanted to say, by the way, you should know that a reed has therapeutic properties. It could heal people. It heals the wound. So I would think that it's also to use on Shabbos because shchika samim on him. You're not allowed to heal wounds on Shabbos. You could. Says the Mishnah. Hold on 1 second. I got to turn on this air conditioner. 1 sec. Sorry. So, we're talking about the Mizbeach. The kevesh of the Mizbeach, you're going up the ramp. And it's a rainy day. So what do you do if it's a rainy day? Could you see? I don't know if you could see well. It's a rainy day, and I don't want kohanim to slip and fall. So you could put melach al gabe kevesh. I could spray some salt on there. Bishvil shlo yachliku. Now, typically, it might be a problem to put salt because ashvui gumais, you're straightening something out. It's like binyan. We'll see. Maybe there's a little bit of an issue of building up the mizbeach. You're building. Problem of building. Says the Mishnah, umimalim mibar hagula umibar hagadol bagalgal b'Shabbos. So you know the wells, they have a wheel, which I didn't look it up today, but as far as I remember, I think a wheel takes off about 50%. Should take about 50% of the weight of the item, right? Because it's holding. I think that's how it is. And if you add another wheel, it takes off another 25%. I forgot the cheshbon. Whatever, there's a cheshbon. If you do another wheel below here, and that's what you can do a whole wheelie system. Anyway, one wheel makes it easier. There's no question it makes it easier. I think it's 50%. Makes sense logically because it's holding the rope from on top, and you're just pulling. So I think it takes 50. Okay, fine. Whatever the number is. So it says like this. They had 2 of these boiros in the Beis Hamikdash, so you can draw water even though you're using a galgal, even though you're using a wheel. That's okay. Now, There was a well outside of the Beis Hamikdash. One well called Kar. That well you could use on Yontif, not on Shabbos. As the Gemara is gonna explain. Ramile Rav Iko mipashronia l'Rava. So Rav Iko asked a question to Rava. Not. It says that you can pour salt on the ramp of the Mizbeach. It says Mefurish in the Mishnah, you can only do it in the Beis Hamikdash, on the Kevesh. Doesn't say you could start spraying salt on your sidewalk. Verimini, how does this fit with the following halacha? You have a yard that's all muddy, maybe teven, you bring some straw, or miradaba, and you spread it out. Why is it that you could spread out straw in your backyard, but you cannot spread salt? Says the Gemara, Shani Teven Deloy Mevatele. Okay? The reason is that when it comes to straw, I'm not setting it there for good. It's a temporary thing. I could use it afterwards. I have other uses for it. Nice, geschmack, muddy, stepped on Teven, I'll feed it to my animal. I'll put it in the cement. But using salt, I have zero to do with it. Once I put it down, it's garbage. Garbage is a problem. I have a nice muddy thing. I have all these dips and stuff in my mud. Now I go and I put salt down and I smooth it out. Smooth it out is binyan. That's also. However, if I'm going to use my straw, that's not a problem. Why? Because I'm going to take out the straw is just there temporarily. So it's not a shvuy gumas. I don't have a problem with a shvuy gumas. He asks him a bomb question. Ravacha asks Rav Ashi, "Hi melech hikidami." Right? It's so interesting when Rav Ashi is writing about himself. Rav Ashi wrote this. So Ravacha asks Rav Ashi, "Hi melech hikidami." What exactly happened in the Beis Hamikdash? They sprinkled salt. I don't know the sprinkler. What intent did he have? Did he have an intent to leave it there forever and let the rain come and wash it away? Whatever, but he put it there forever. That's the problem. Now he's adding a fraction of an inch to the Mizbeach. The Marshal takes this out. I got this from Nevi'im. The exact measurement. The Mizbeach is 16 amas wide, 22. This height, that. It's exact. To the millimeter, not a millimeter. You're adding salt. You're ruining it. You're going what Torah tells us not to do. And if he doesn't, he's not mevat the salt. No, a kohen must have his body, his feet, the bottom of his feet, have to touch the ground. They can't be on a kli. They can't be on a friend's foot. We learned all sorts of halachas. Chatzitza can't wear shoes. Obviously, have to be on the floor of the table. So how can you put salt? Salt is like a shoe. Elamayu mevatelut. It became part of the mizbeach. Oh, so you added to the mizbeach. So we have a problem here. Says the Gemara, what's the big deal? The only time the kohen's feet have to be on the Beis Hamikdash, on the floor, is when he's performing avodah. He's not performing an avodah. He's carrying meat. The korbanos he's carrying up the ramp. So the lav avodah. There's no problem of chatzitza. There's a problem of falling on your head and breaking your hip. That's very important to take care of. So we put down salt. It says in the pasuk, Rashi points out, hakoyin. Why koyin? Because it's an avodah. Otherwise, it wouldn't say koyin. He takes all the pieces up and he brings it onto the mizbecha. This is just carrying it up is part of the avodah. Part of the avodah requires that your feet touch the ground, not on salt. In fact, we're talking about Shabbos, right? So what exactly are they doing on the Mizbeach? On Shabbos, on a typical Shabbos. Let's think about it just for a second. They bring a carbon tamid on Shabbos, and they bring a carbon musaf on Shabbos. They are going to bring some of the wood They're going to take some of the wood, some of the gechalim for the ketores. What else? That's pretty much it, I think. Yeah? I don't know. I can't think of anything else. So they have to walk up and down this mizbeach. In fact, Yoni, I think he did a very nice job here because this kevesh over here is 16 amos wide. And if you look closely, all he did was he put salt. There's a line right over here. So he didn't put salt on the entire kevesh. He put salt on part of the kevesh, as the Gemara says here. People have to go up to this back to bring wood, and that's not avodah. So those people are going to use the salt. And when the other kohanim, when they're done with the tamid and the musa and everything, they'll walk down the salt. Anybody else? They can't start sweeping salt away. So that's what I think he did. He made a nice little path for salt for those who are not performing avodah, or the guys that are returning from the avodah, so they could walk on the salt. However, the other people bringing up the Ivarim, the Talmud, the Musaf, they're going to have to go on this part of the Mizbeach. And that's what he has here. Carbon, this guy's carrying a carbon. And this guy's carrying eitzim. Beautiful, I just noticed it now. I didn't realize he wrote it, Mefurish, eitzim and carbon. Okay, great. This guy from Chacham in Mirak, he sits and he goes through the sugya well, so that he could draw nicely. Dorash wrote, you have a yard that got muddy, maybe it's heaven and radable. He brings a little straw and he spreads it out. Listen to this Maisa. Unbelievable. It's a great lesson in life. Omalei Rav Papa Rava. Says Rav Papa Rava, Vatanyo, Kshumirada, Einoi, Mirada Lebisav Lebikuba. When he spreads out the straw, be careful. Don't take a box and flip it over and go like this. Why? That's Uvda Dechal. That's how you do it in the weekday. Can't do Uvda Dechal. You have to be careful. Shabbos, Shaloya Luchacha, Shaloya Diburcha. Dibur, the way you walk, the way you talk. So certainly you shouldn't do malacha, spreading out straw like a guy does on a Tuesday. You have to do it differently. So what do? Ela b'shulei kupa, you take some sort of piece that's left over from your box and you spread it out like that. Listen to this. It's amazing. Hadar oikim Rava amoira alei v'darash. Rava turned on the microphone. In those days, they didn't have microphones, so they had an amoira. It's a guy that has a very loud voice, could scream loud, and the screamer said, and the amoira said, Dvarim sha'amarti lefneichem, you should know Rabbi Sai, toes, same biyad. Everything I said before is a mistake. I, Rava, Gadol Adar, I made a mistake. It's okay to make mistakes in learning. Bram Komru, Mishum Rebbe Eliezer. This is the halacha. In the name of Rebbe Eliezer, Kshumirada, when you spread it out, you should only spread it out with the broken box, not with the regular box. Thought it's beautiful. There's a Maisa with me. I davened in a shul in Chicago, and the Rav there is Rabbi Chaim Twersky, a tremendous tzaddik. I mentioned the story a while ago. Say it again. He's a big onav, a real onav. He's a guy, mamish, a big Talmid Chacham. So I was learning Mishnah Berurah at the time. I was going through my Mishnah Berurah, and I happened upon the halacha, and I go over to him and I say, listen, the way he used to do it is he used to give a speech on Shabbos. When? They used to say, Yahalalu Hashem Hashem, and they would put the Sefer Torah back into the Aron Kodesh after Ashrei. Ashrei, Yahalalu, like everybody does. And then, clap on the bima, he gives a drasha. And after his drasha, he's got the start Kaddish. So I went over to him, I said, I don't understand, Rebbe. Kaddish goes on Ashrei. You can't just do Kaddish in the middle of nowhere after a speech. This is Ashrei and Kaddish. He says, let me see the Mishnah Berurah, let me see. Okay, that was the following week. He gets up, he says, Rabbi Sai, my father used to give a drasha after Ashrei, and then they would say Kaddish. My grandfather, I forgot the Rebbe, another Rebbe, these are Torskis, the Doris of Rebbes. And Doiris, of Rebbes, they gave the speech like this. But Eli Stefansky pointed out a Mishnah Berurah to me, and I'm changing it from today on. The way it's going to work is, we're going to say Yahalalu and not Ashrei. And after my speech, we're going to say Ashrei and Kaddish. And the Kaddish is going to go on Ashrei. Until this very day, that's how they do it. You're a guest there, you don't know what's flying. The Halalu, no Ashrei, what's flying? That's it, because he's a ish halacha. Whatever the halacha says, the Mishnah Berurah says like that, even though he's Hasidish, and even though he has minhag avisayni b'yadayni, no. That's the halacha, that's it. End of story. Unbelievable. It's a true sign of anov and a true sign of a person that cares about halacha. Says the Gemara.
Classic Rabbi Twersky story.
It is. It's unbelievable. Avi Kamiansky knows. Learned a lot of Daf Yomi with Rabbi Twersky. Avi. All right. Brand new sugya. You'll say right here. This is where you cut and go weiter. Right here. Also, an amazing story here. Ula was a guest. Also, some terrible individual banged on the door, knocked on the door. Omar, so Ula said, Man hai litcha gufe dekom machal le'shapsa. Who's this guy that's being mechal Shabbos? His body should be mechulul. What chutzpah is this? Knocking on the door, knocking on the door in Shabbos. It's mashmiya kol. You're not allowed to drum on Shabbos. You're not allowed to make noises on Shabbos. What do you mean? The whole issue is if it's a nice sound, if it has a beat. Oh, I forgot to get the picture for this. This is another problem. Okay. So once we're holding here, I just want to do a little Mishnah Berurah for a second. Here's a few cool, interesting halachas that maybe the Olam doesn't know about. Are you allowed to snap your finger on Shabbos in order to wake somebody up? The Magen Avram says you're allowed to if it's not a derech shir, but he says that according to Tosfos and Shabbos and Rashi, you should be machmer. Don't snap your finger. Okay, that's one thing. Another thing, I think I was with Avi actually, Avi Kamiansky in the Belz Beis Medrash. Were you with me? I don't remember. And they showed us that there's so many people there, so in order to make them quiet, they have a special stick, and the gabbai bangs it on the bima and makes a huge sound. Are you allowed to use that on Shabbos? The answer is no, you cannot. Here's another question. Could you clap your hands during l'chadaydi? Can you dance during l'chadaydi? So that's a little bit problematic. That says in halacha that you shouldn't. But there are places that they do, l'dvar mitzvah. Now, Simchas Torah is very different because it's l'kavod the Torah. But maybe one should be a little bit more careful. There's a lot of people that like to do a beat, the chazan, go this, da-da-da, da-da-da. It's probably better not to. There are places that they do it, and I guess yesh al mi lismoich, but it's an issue. To the point where Ula thought that even knocking on the door is usher. What's the problem? The problem is that he's going to fix an instrument. Now, because in our day we don't have instruments like this that we're fixing, you're going to knock, you're going to go like this, you're going to fix a guitar, doesn't it? So that's why they're more makel. Fine. But if you're not in shul, you're not dancing, it's not for the simcha of the mitzvah of tefillah, then it's very problematic. So that's why people go like this. They do different ways. They do kalachiyad and stuff like that. Okay. Says Esvei Abayo. So Abayo asks a question. Malin b'dyoifi umatifin mi'erek l'choyle b'Shabbos. Dyoifi, dyoy is two. It's basically a what's the word? I had it before. It's where, like you try to steal gas from a car, so you stick a tube in and a siphon. Okay, siphon. So the yoifi is like a siphon. You put it in one kli, you give it a little, you blow inwards, you draw the water to you or whatever it is, and it continues to go.
You sound like you have some experience in that.
Yeah, I'm not going to go into that story on the RV. It's a different time, for a different time. It's a Givaldik Amaisa, but for a different time. So anyway, Mierek is basically, think about a shower head. It's a piece of metal that has tiny little holes in it, and you fill it up with water on top, and when you unplug it, it starts dripping out nicely. It drips on another piece of metal, and it creates a soothing sound. It could be a soothing sound, or it could be a very annoying sound. So, l'chayla in l'barilai, you could do so, you can make this noise for the sick. Says the Gemara Echidami, Lav denim v'kaboy l'dater. You don't want to wake up the sick person, scare him, he'll get a heart attack, he'll have a stroke or something. So what you do is you use this erek, a little bit of annoying noise, and slowly, he has to get up. An alarm clock, sort of. But what kind of noise is it? Annoying. So annoying is also to do. It says over here you can only do it for a sick person, but not for a regular person. So you see from here that any kind of sound is also to do on Shabbos. Not a good raya. The tir, he's awake. The kabay delaynim, you want to soothe him. It's a sound machine. You know they have these sound machines that give you a nice soothing sound. So that's what's going on. So don't bring a raya from this Eric thing that even an annoying noise is also do on Shabbos. Perhaps it's a nice noise, and that's why it's also to do. It's like music. The Mishnah call it the zamzumi. It actually sounds like you're making a sound with some sort of a musical instrument. Eisvei, amashamer pirois of bnei oifos. We have it by us. Over here we have a lot of annoying birds. There come dozens of them on the porch, even on Shabbos. Are you allowed to chase on Shabbos? Udlav bnei achaya. You don't want the animals to eat your gourds, your pumpkins. Mishama kedarge b'Shabbos. You do what you typically do. Ubevaj leisapik v'leitapach. He shouldn't clap his hands. You're not allowed to clap your hands on Shabbos. V'leitapach. And you shouldn't bang your chest, make noises on your chest. V'leiraket. You shouldn't dance. You shouldn't stomp with your feet. Kederach shenoisim b'chol. My time. Lav v'kemoidet kol. Isn't it because you're creating a sound on Shabbos? V'cholei kol also. No. You're not making a nice sound. That's not the problem. The problem is, specifically with birds, you might take a stone, you'll throw it at the bird, and you'll end up throwing at birds in Rosh Hashanah. Your stone will end up in Rosh Hashanah. Velo, domarav, yodomarav. Noshim, amisachakos begoizim asur. I mean, you have to think about it. In those days, the women, we had a Tosfos, I forgot where it was. Tosfos says that by us in France, the women used to get married at the age of 12 and even younger, he said. People didn't have money, there was reasons for it. So you're dealing with very young girls. They're in elementary school. They're in 7th, 8th grade. And they had a game. They would take a nut and toss it down like a smooth surface and see if they could hit another one, like marbles. Also, it's also for them to do so. My taima. So the chayra, we think the reason is lav the komodo color because they're making sounds with the nut. And that's also they need a smooth surface. So if you allow them to play with these things on Shabbos, don't picture yourself a 40-year-old mother with children, these mature women that we have today. These are little kids. They're playing. The problem is that they might smooth out the dirt. Because if not, how do you explain this? The same exact thing. The game was with apples. Also, now apple doesn't make any sound. Obviously, the reason behind it is so you don't smooth out the surface. Not. So we had in our Mishnah, you're allowed to draw water from a well, and you're allowed to use the wheel. Why only in the Beis HaMikdash? Because we're talking about Hashmas Kol. You're creating a sound. The wheel has it has the teeth, it's whatever the mechanism is, it makes a lot of noise. It's so easy to draw water using this fancy wheel. I don't know where you got it. It's a chashava invention. So now all of a sudden you're going to start watering your yard, your garden on Shabbos, and that's the problem. Says the Gemara, Ameimar Shor Lemimla Bigalgala B'Mechayza. I don't know if you remember, we had him Masechta Shabbos. Ameimar allowed everybody to sweep the floor in Shabbos because in Mechayza they had balatot. They didn't have the dirt floor, they were all wealthy. So, same Ameimar, he also made a heter, he said you're allowed to use the wheel on Shabbos. Why? My time it goes to Rabbanon. What's the whole reason that it's also Shami Yimali Genos L'Churbasai? Hacha, here in Bar Park. Forget about it. There's no gardens, there's nothing here. Says the Gemara. Even the Kachaza, the Taru Bokitana. But they didn't realize this is another problem. In the weekdays, they sat around and they would fill up they had so much water, so they would fill up their vats to soak the wool, the cotton. So Mamela, he said, you know what? You might come to do that on Shabbos. And he said, it's completely asur. We just turned to Daf Amud Beis, and now, believe it or not, it's unbelievable. We see the end of the Masech. It's crazy. Very, very emotional. Sponsored, this turning of the Daf, sponsored, leading the Nishmas Ruchama Chaya Fruma Ala Shalom Bas Reb Doiv Pinchas, and Rabbi Chil Shrago ben Avram Alevi Olav Shalom. Second sponsor, by Kalman of the 5 towns, Lili Nishmas Menachem Mendel ben Simcha. And the third, sponsored by the Fine and Pearl families in the Schus of Rafur Shleima, for Minda Elka Bas Edel, Yishkoyach, Zev, and Dani Fine, and the ganze Mishpacha. Says the Gemara, Umibe'er Akar. We had that you could draw water from a well called Kar, which happened to be outside of the Beis Hamikdash, on Yontav only, with a wheel. My Berakar, why is it called Berakar? What is it? Where is it? Omar Shmuel Bar Shehikru Oleo Dvarim V'Tirua. What happened was Klal Yisrael were coming out of Golus. They were coming to Eretz Yisrael. They needed water on Yontav. So they made an argument to say that they're able to draw water on Yontav. It's not life and death, but it was a Shas Chak. They needed water, and they allowed them. Rabbi said we're talking about one well. That's it. One place called Kar. Meisvei. They didn't allow all the kares wells. Now, how does the word if hikru means that they asked questions and they made an argument? That's on one well. That's in one place. How all of a sudden now it became plural? There were many of these hikros. It doesn't fit into what we just said. How did all of a sudden you have hikru means it was one argument for one well, and now you're telling me kolabois hakaros, all the karos ones. Like in Bar Park again on 14th Avenue, Ber Maim Chaim. I don't know if it exists there anymore. I don't think so. Ber Maim Chaim. It's in every Shever Brachos, every Chasana. You have to drink Ber Maim Chaim soda only. But Ber Maim Chaim means it's alive. It's a spring. So it is actually one bear. It's one place, but mikar hakar means that it comes from the source. But it's actually only one. They were matter one well only on Yontif. And when Klal Yisrael came up, they rested right there by that well. They said you could drink from it. Not only those 3 Nevi'im, there's a minig. But at the end of the day, just that one bar. Boisai. Betzal Jacobowitz. Shalom Aleichem Reb Betzal. How you doing? And who else? We had Rabbi Pashkas here. Moshe Pashkas, I saw him. Hello, I know. I wanted to see him for Psachim Daf Beis, but now that you ruined it, Dr. Shamroth, I don't see him, but I'm gonna have to remind him again. Dr. Shamroth was with us for, I don't remember how long. He hasn't missed a day since Shabbos, beginning of Shabbos maybe? I don't know, it's a long time. Shalom, I don't see your face, that's why. Dr. Shamroth, you gotta show your face. Who else do we have? Oh, Zaman Tzvi Bilyak, that's Yosef's son. Avi Ehrenreich, Yaakov Tuch. Who else? Eitan Ogerig, Rabbi Isai, show up to the See them tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, by Avi Factor's street over there. It's going to be very kosher. 3 people per table with social distancing and food made by Eitan Ugerik, a very, very, very good chef. It's going to be barbecue style. So far, over 65 people, I believe, are showing up, and it might be more. So be there. I'll be there. No one will be there. The whole Chevra, MDY Chevra will be there. It will be a great time, and all of Klal Yisrael throughout the world. Says the Mishnah, and a message of bracha from Rabbi Asher Weiss, and a message, yes.
My father-in-law's been on since Nida, not since Shabbos.
Oh, okay. I knew I made a mistake there. Since Nida. So okay, for Psachim Daf Beis, Amud Aleph, we'll get it straight. Shkoyach. Since Nida, wow. Since my streak, it's come out 400 days straight. Straight. He hasn't missed a day, Rabbi say, not a day. Says the Mishnah. The last Mishnah. I want to cry, best. I'm not joking. It's very emotional. We went through such an unbelievable Masechta. They say it's from the toughest ones in Shas. And here it is, the last, final Mishnah. Sheretz shenimtza b'migdash. Sheretz. One of my favorite charts of all time. This is what a sheretz looks like. One of these 8 guys. Shmonish rotzim. It could be a mouse. It could be a toad. A tzav is a toad. Remember, whole sugya, not a turtle. Tzav in Hebrew is a turtle, but in the Torah it means a toad. Okay, shmonish rotzim. What do? You come into the Beis Hamikdash, you find one of these things, a pager on the floor, you gotta get rid of it. Now, obviously, during the week, of course, the guy comes immediately and takes it out. But what happens if you find it on Shabbos? So, as we had the picture before, we go back, the Kohen has a belt, he has a gartel, a nice red gartel. So he takes the gartel off, so he doesn't touch it with his own hands. He picks up the sheretz and tosses it out. Now, here's a nice Yoni picture. You get the idea. And what's going on here is as follows. A dead sheretz is it's avatuma. Avatuma. What happens when you touch avatuma? You become a rishon latuma. So if the kohen himself would touch the mouse, the dead mouse, he would become a rishon. That's a no-no. He's not allowed to become tamei. He has no place there. It's also he's in the Beis Hamikdash b'tuma. So he touches the avnate. The avnate becomes a rishon, and a rishon cannot make a human being tamei. End the story. It could be, look, Yoni does it nicely. The mouse touches the avnei. The mouse's avatuma touches the avnei, which becomes a rishon. We're not going to tumah here. I'm just saying it so that we are much more familiar with hilchas tumah. Touches the avnei. The avnei could touch food, and the food will become tamei. But once the avnei touches the kohen, nothing. Kalim, nothing. Okay. So that's that. Says the Gemara. Says the Mishnah. We're going to see in the Gemara. Immediately, you don't want the sheretz laying around there, so immediately he goes and grabs it and he chucks it out of the Beis Hamikdash. Use tongs made out of wood. Now a tong is not mekabel tumah. Why? Because it's pshute kliate. It's flat. It doesn't have a base kibul. It doesn't have anything to carry in. It's just a flat tong. Even though it's a kli, but it's pshute kliate. MMA law, it's not mekabel tumah. It could touch a mouse, a dead mouse from today to tomorrow. It's not mekabel tumah. However, you have to go find the tzvat. You have to leave 5 minutes, go in that direction to the closet, open up the drawer, pull out a tzvat, and come back. You just wasted 10 minutes of a sheretz sitting there. What do? Do you make your avnate tamei and get the mouse out immediately? Or do you go and you don't make anything tamei, but it's going to take you another 10 minutes? What do? That's the machlokes. Rabbi says you wait 10 minutes, you do it in a proper way that nothing else becomes tamei. Sorry. You take him out of the heichal, my favorite chart of all time, most used chart that a Korban will tell you. Here's the heichal. The ulam Here's the Azara. This is where they shecht all the karbanas. You go up the 15 steps. None. The 15 steps here. You go into the ulam and the echol. What's the echol? That's where the menorah is, the shulchan, the mizbech haktoris, mizbech hazav. It's called mizbech haktoris. That's where you do the haktoris. And inside here is the kodesh kodashim. So on Shabbos, we don't have a choice. So when it's in these areas, Shalom Aleichem Phil Baron. I got to stop to say Shalom Aleichem Phil Baron. Shalom, how are you? I missed you. So in these areas, you take it out. Not only that, from this area right over here, between this and the Mizbeach, that's where the kiyar is. This is that has a lot of kedusha. Get rid of this mouse. Divrei Rebbe Shimon ben Anas. Rebbe Kiva Omer kol mokem shechayavim azdoini kores v'shigigos echatos misham tzim oisam. So comes Rebbe Kiva and says, no, who is it? Yeah, Rebbe Kiva Omer kol mokem shechayavim azdoini kores v'shigigos echatos. If by mistake you are tamei, if you did it on purpose, you get kores. V'shigigos echatos, and did a mistake, you get a chatos. That's where you have to take it out. So, says Rebbe Kiva, not true. Only in the places that it's done in kodesh you go chatos. But anywhere else, you do one of these, you take a copper bowl and you cover the sheretz and Shalom HaYisrael. Rebbe Shimon Omer, Mokom shetir l'cho chachamim, Mishalcha nasalcha, shleitir l'cha ela mishum shvus. This we're going to have to explain. This is a throwback to somewhere completely different in the Masechta. We're finishing off the Masechta with Chazara. Nothing to do with our sugya, so we're going to see the Gemara for this Reb Shimon. Let's just do a few lines here, so we don't do a whole daf tomorrow, but we have plenty of time. Omer Rav Tavi bar Kisna Omer Shmuel Hamachnes Tomei Sheres LeMigdosh. So, if you bring in a vessel that was touched by a sheretz, listen to this unbelievable chiddush. If you bring the vessel, the actual vessel that touched a dead mouse into the Beis Hamikdash, that's a no-no. Chayav. Sheretz atzmei potter. But bring the originator of the tumah into the Beis Hamikdash, you're potter. You schlep a dead mouse into the Beis Hamikdash, nothing. You schlep the kli that touched the dead mouse, chayav. What are you chayav? Rashi says you chayav kares. Says the Vilna Gaon on the side here, ta'u soifer. It's simply a mistake because it's mefurish and Torah's kehanim that you're not chayav kares. You only chayav malchus. Okay. My timer. What's pshat? Omar kromi zocher v'adin keva d'shalechu. If you're zocher in a keva that have tumah, you got to get out of the Beis Hamikdash. Mish yesh li tahara b'mikvah. That's similar to a zocher in a keva to jump in the mikvah and become tar. Yotz sheretz shein li tahara b'mikvah. But the sheretz himself you can't put in a mikvah. But the kli you could put in the mikvah. So the whole problem is to bring something in the Beis Hamikdash that has a way out of the tumah like a kli, like a human being, but not the sheretz himself. Leima, just 3 more lines. Leima sayele mizachad nekevet shalechu prat likli cheres. By the way, I have a shaila for the olam. Here's my shaila. Do you have to toivel this mug? Or, I have a different one. You know what? It doesn't matter. This can't be here. Sorry. Mistake. This. Do we have to toivel these mugs? Yes or no? Okay, I'm looking at the screen now. I need everybody to show me a finger. Up or down? What do you do in your house? These mugs. Toivel or not toivel? What is going? Everybody's toivel them? Everybody? There's a couple of people that said not. Here's a chiddush. A chiddush gadol for those who say you don't have to be toivel. You have to be toivel these. Why? Kli cheres, you're not toivel. They are right. Kli cheres, not toivel. This is not a kli cheres. this has a glass glaze on it, and therefore this is chayev in tevilah. Just the FYI for those who don't know that. Okay, but anyway, without a bracha, correct. The only things you make a bracha on are metal and glass. Without a bracha. So if you didn't know that halacha, I'm in good company. Says the Gemara. Oh, l'chayr is the same halacha that we just said a second ago. The reason is because the Torah tells us you have to break it. Not this. Not this. But what some of you thought, this is a kli cheres, earthenware, a clay vessel, has no tahara in a mikvah. So if it has tuma, break it. Lie. Mishanasa avatuma. Only a kli that becomes avatuma, let's say if a zav sits on it, medris, or it touched a dead person, avatuma. Yotze kli cheres, sheininas avatuma. But a kli cheres can never become avatuma, and therefore what? Where were we? Let me say it. Right. So, kli cheres, you don't have to send that to the Beis Hamikdash, not because of what we thought, because of the mikvah, but because it doesn't become avatuma. Rabbi Isai, have a wonderful, wonderful week. I hope to see you tomorrow morning. And if not tomorrow morning, I'll see you at the Siyum tomorrow night at 8 o'clock, Eretz Yisrael time. Have a wonderful evening, everybody.
Unfortunately, I will not be able to join you tomorrow.
I don't want, no, anybody that can't join, don't tell me now. That you'll say later. Only people that could join should tell me.
YouTube video froze, but the sound is okay. So no one can see anything. They can only hear our conversation.
Right now, when did it freeze? How long ago? So why didn't you tell me? Yishkoyach, Shavua Tov.
The same Zoom link tomorrow night. It's the same Zoom link tomorrow night.